for that person, forcing like 20 plus sets per week and stopping, starting, having to deload very often and so on and so forth, you could argue that that could lead to inferior gains versus somebody being very consistent and doing less.
Folks, my name's Dr. Mike. I don't remember what I'm a doctor in, but this is Dr. Pak. Dr. Pak, what is your full given Greek name?
It's Patroklos Androulakis Korakakis. Patroklos, the lover of Achilles.
Damn.
For the history enjoyers.
You have a PhD. You are Dr. Pak.
A real doctor.
PhD isn't, let's back that up. What if I get sick, what kind of sick do I have to be for you to help me out?
Sick, muscular.
My man.
Yeah, there you go.
Sick, bro.
Yeah.
Sick pump.
Looking sick, bro.
That's the kind of doctor I need. Yeah, you're like,
looking sick.
Yeah, literally.
Here's a program.
So you have a PhD in sports science. Amazing. And where did you get your doctoral degree?
Doctoraldegrees.com.
That's a great website.
Yes. I got it from Solent University in the UK, the United Kingdom.
Oh my.
I am also a British citizen.
Really?
Last time I checked, we're speaking English here.
Rule Britannia.
Yes, exactly.
One of your expert areas is on a very curious topic of the minimum effective dose for training, which means training at the boundaries of as little as you can to still see dependable growth.
Yes.
So that's a very important concept because some people really want to know, I have some hours per week to train. It's not enough for me to make gains. Fuck it, I'm not even going to the gym. But it turns out it might not require a whole lot of training to see some really good gains. Tell us a story about your research, your familiarity with the research, and just generally kind of like a bullet point list of like, what's on average the minimum effective dose, sets and reps and blah, blah, blah per week frequency that you can like, with average genetics, if you're starting out, expect to be like, okay, this is probably going to get some results. Anything below this is like, nah. Anything above is like, for sure.
Yeah. So my PhD was specifically on the minimum effective dose for powerlifters.
Mm-hmm.
So we did look at...
To get strong.
Yeah, to get strong, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We did look at highly trained individuals. If I remember correctly, our intervention studies were the strongest studies out there as far as like participants.
The participants were, because a lot of times you read the shit and you're like, these guys are pussies, they ain't benching shit, but these were stacked motherfuckers.
For the literature, yeah. For you wouldn't lose your mind looking at somebody, squatting 440, but they were solid.
That's fucking respect, bro.
Yeah, they were respectable for sure. But obviously having to look at the totality of available evidence, I got familiar with the literature in general around the topic. And it's nice that you touched on it because I wanted to, aside from looking at what the literature says as far as low volume training and gains go, I wanted to also define what effective means, what meaningful gains mean. So we also interviewed a bunch of high-level coaches and athletes to see what their definition of meaningful is.
Because I was a participant in that part of the study.
You were a participant in many of our interview studies. I'd like to thank you on camera for
and
that.
Other participation things that were not on camera.
Mostly that. So essentially, to take a few steps back, for somebody who is looking to make solid gains, gains that will be meaningful, gains that will matter, obviously not optimal gains, even as low as 4 to 6 sets per muscle group per week for hypertrophy and for strength as well, is more than enough for them to actually see gains.
So I can do 2 sets of dips close to failure on Monday, wide grip. I can do 2 sets of incline dumbbell presses for chest close to failure on Thursday. And if I really haven't trained much, and even if I've trained for a little while, I can see some kind of notable gains over the weeks and months of training from even that small amount.
Yes. It may not be optimal, but you could be looking at 50 to 70% of your potential gains. Now, as the literature is evolving, that number may change. And we do expect it to potentially shift a bit lower than what we currently think.
Yeah, because it keeps going down every time we test it. Like we haven't really found much of a floor yet, have we?
Exactly.
Which means, just for the viewers, it means like scientists have to guess at what kind of low volume is the low volume in the study. So they compare normal volume to low volume to be 10 sets a week to 5 sets. We've done that a few times and it's like 5 sets still grows muscle. So like still makes you stronger.
Yeah.
So it's like, so is it 2 sets in the next study per week? Is 3? What is really the key to saying, okay, anything below this, it really just doesn't grow any muscle.
Yeah, I mean, we know that even a single set per muscle group per week will still yield meaningful growth
In beginners.
in beginners and in trained individuals. At least from the strength data that we have, we went as low as a rep per week, and
Holy shit.
yeah, so like a heavy single on the deadlifts, and based on the definition of meaningful by coaches and athletes, and I'm talking like top 5 powerlifters in the world, regardless of sex and age, and coaches that have coached multiple champions. That group that did just like a handful of times for the squat, bench, and deadlift, one single for the deadlift, a few for squat, a few for bench. They still had like a, let's say, 30% chance of achieving meaningful gains. So,
So
but-
for some of them, that was enough to at least peak them. It was enough to at least eke out a little bit more.
yeah, for sure.
But for most of them then, for most of us, heavy single just once a week is
Yeah, it will be enough for you to maintain your strength, but it's probably not going to be magic. However, doing around 6 sets per week, per lift, per exercise, had about a 99% chance of achieving gains that were greater than what the coaches and athletes regard as meaningful. That's as far as strength goes. As far as hypertrophy, if we look at previous meta-analytic data by Schoenfeld et al., we see, and some of the interventions as well, if we take them and look at them in isolation, like 1 to 4 sets may be enough for you to achieve, let's say, 50% of your potential hypertrophic gains. And then as you go up, obviously you go into your 6 to 10 sets per muscle group per week, and you get closer to the 80% of potential gains, and then obviously 10 to 20 sets for that extra 20%. However, as you noted, there's more research coming out, and there was a new study that came out lately showing that ceiling may be higher than we thought.
Yeah.
Which would, again, push those numbers a bit lower. But at the same time, the message here is like, look, you have lives, you have shit to do.
Our view,
Yeah,
our
sorry.
audience doesn't have lives. That's nonsense. Grandma lets you lift only 3 times a week. The rest of the time you spend in the basement. That's how to
Exactly.
contextualize that.
So the time that your grandmother allows you to go to your great basement, or actually leave your basement.
And go to the YMCA,
Exactly.
the local fitness center.
That time, if you just have those few days thinking that, I'm not going to be able to make optimal gains, is not the way to go. Because the person that tries to do what's optimal for, like, let's take two examples, person A, person B. Person A is super busy, has a family, and is really trying to force like an optimal volume load.
Yeah.
But
Full send.
they're unable to keep up with that. So they work up to a bunch of sets, then they feel super tired, they feel disappointed that they can't complete a workout.
The wife's like, do you just not find me attractive anymore? And it's like, baby, I would have sex with you. My quads.
The answer there is yes, and then a divorce if you've signed a prenup. If not, then you got to comply.
Free legal advice.
Yes, there you go. Dr. Pack, real doctor, real lawyer. Overrated lawyers, by the way. You heard it here first. Just kidding.
Keep going. This is all
ADHD.
wisdom as far as I can go.
So yeah, for that person, forcing like 20 plus sets per week and stopping, starting, having to deload very often and so on and so forth, you could argue that could lead to inferior gains versus somebody being very consistent and doing less. Still, we're not talking about a single set a week. We're still talking about close to 10 sets per muscle group per week.
10 sets per muscle group per week.
Yeah, close to that for hypertrophy at least.
Sure.
Because I don't think that's a lot. Like, people make a big deal out of 10 sets.
It's 2 workouts a week where you do 5 sets.
Exactly.
Like, that's ridiculous.
But the number 10 specifically is thrown around as relatively high volume. In the literature, at least, it's it's sometimes moderate, sometimes higher volume.
Yes.
But yeah, the person that can keep that up for a long period of time, you could
Sure.
argue that they could see better gains in the
Sure.
long term.
Sure. One thing that we get as a question quite often is when people are concerned that the muscle they built, let's say training 5 days a week,
Uh-huh.
they're entering a life situation where they're only going to be able to train 3 days a week for some number of months.
Mhm.
We get a lot of very concerned people asking essentially like, how much muscle can I expect to lose going from training 5 days a week to 3 days a week? Well, I've said before, and I'm wondering now that we have the expert on if this is true, is it's much more likely that you are going to continue to gain, albeit a little bit slower. To lose muscle, you have to go below your maintenance volume, which might be like 2 to 4 sets per muscle group per week. And good God, no problem to get that in one daily session or one weekly session. So when people have to regress in their frequency from 5 to 4 or 5 to 3 or 6 to 4, are you concerned about them stopping all of their gains or even losing muscle? Or are you able to confidently assess from the literature and your own experience that like, well, actually, you'll probably still make gains, just maybe a little slower on average? What's the reality there?
Exactly, you said exactly what you said. I would even say that even if you're doing, like, let's say you were doing 20 sets and then whatever, something tragic happens and you can only do 1 to 4 sets per muscle group per week, I'd say that if those sets are really intense sets, you're very close or to momentary failure.
Tragedy often fuels intensity.
Exactly.
This is for you, Grandma. Oh, gone too soon.
I'm right here. I can see you. Go fuck
Ooh,
yourself.
Ghost Grandma, spot her.
Huh?
It's a good idea. She's around still. She's like, you think you did 0 RIR, but like the rafters shake, and she's like, ooh, pussy. You're like, what the fuck, Grandma? All right, I'll do a few more reps.
But even like as low as 1 to 4 sets per muscle group per week, I'd say you're definitely maintaining. You're definitely maintaining, if not maybe like a slight increase.
Okay, so to interpret this for someone not intelligent like myself, the simple words, maintenance is much easier than most people think.
Very, very much so.
Okay. Minimum effective dose for both strength and hypertrophy is somewhere around, just to be very general, for the average person, there's differences, of course, 5 sets per muscle group per week. Somewhere in that area, a lot of people can start to see dependable gains.
Yes.
So maintenance, maybe 2 to 4, dependable gains starting just north of that. And then we have another person who will be talking in another video about the top end. So don't you get too carried away talking about MRV yet. I invented MRV. It's my concept.
Yes, it's yours. And I've trademarked a minimum effective dose and for a cheap subscription of $99.99.
99.
Yeah, $99. You can also train with low volume.
But I get your seal of approval on it, so I feel confident about it.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, as you said,
Make your worst gains possible. What a great title to a program. Make the slowest gains you can. Dr. Pack approved. Tired of training a lot? Don't worry. You can still make some gains. I love it. He's selling the fuck out of this.
We did have, though, we do have data, long-term data, as long as 7 years, and we're talking 15,000 participants from a gym chain in the Netherlands.
They live in a gym and they're not allowed to leave for 7 years.
That's how research works.
That's how the Netherlands works.
Yes.
What a terrible country. Everyone knows Netherlands is really bad about civil rights abuses.
So there is actually still a gym chain that their thing is 20 minutes of training per week. Okay. And they give us access to their data. This is all more premium training. So it's for your average businessman or whatever.
Above average businessman.
Above average.
Above average business enjoyer.
And businesswoman, okay? This is 2023.
Ooh, careful. Woman is a concept we don't fully understand quite yet.
Yeah, it's the RP.
Business
the
person.
RP channel. Women. People are logging out now. They're like, oh no, I
Yes,
said the W word.
For the 1.5 ladies that follow the channel.
This is for you. Anyways, so 20 minutes per week of resistance training, and we had data for over 15,000 individuals over 70 years. For the first 1 or 2 years, strength went up 40 to 60% above baseline. Again, obviously, you're not talking about Ronnie Coleman here, or
He's just not Dutch, so it makes sense.
Sure. But they were still seeing gains after 1 to 2 years in terms of strength. Hypertrophy was not assessed, and that strength plateaued after 1 or 2 years. But the trend remained upward. And at the same time, because they were 40-something years old, you could argue that, because age is sort of battling against their gains, the fact that they didn't lose strength was good. But we have data on people being able to make gains and maintain them with as low as literally a set per muscle group per week. And that's they were doing leg press, some chest press, some lat pull down. It's not like they were really, really targeting each muscle group with a lot of attention.
Yeah, sure.
So things are looking good. Just make sure you train and you get something in if you're trying to maintain. If you're if you're going through a very rough period of in your life, even going to the gym a couple of times per week, yeah, you may not be making a bunch of gains, but hey, you're not losing gains either.
Yes. One recommendation I would like to layer, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but
Wrong.
there are, and I've talked about this on the channel before, but I think it always, at least in this case, it's a good idea to repeat. Your exercise selection can greatly enhance how much efficiency you get out of the gym. The concept I call STR, stimulus to time ratio. What I like to do is basically a version of compound lifting where you pick the compound lift that recruits a lot of the musculature. So for example, if you do a wide grip bench, it's technically compound lift, but really your triceps don't get a big stimulus and your chest gets a huge one. But if you choose lifts more like close grip bench, more like underhand pull down, then all of a sudden you're doing compound lifts, but you're checkboxing the chest and the triceps.
Yep.
So you can do some close grip benching, some underhand pull-ups, some upright rows, some shoulder presses, and right there, like, that's kind of your whole upper body.
Exactly.
At least maintained.
Yep.
And possibly even grown in some cases. Even if you're really jacked already, you do some kind of squatting or lunging movement. You do some kind of hip hinge for the lower body. 2 movements, you're fucking done. And like, if you do that workout, which lasts 40 minutes twice a week, you will indefinitely remain roughly your same size, but for the ravages of aging. And before someone preempts this in the questions, you will shrink down a little bit and lose a couple kilos in the first few weeks of doing that, mostly because the intracellular swelling of your muscles goes down when they're exposed to less damage.
Yeah.
You're not going to look like you're like Pax looking in a shirt, peck the fuck out of his mind. His pecs have pecs. You're not going to look like that. But when you go back to your 4 days a week of training with normal volumes, I'm telling you guys, within 1 week, you're going to be like, holy shit.
Yep.
How did I gain back that much muscle? Well, you didn't lose any muscle. You just gained a little bit of inflammatory response back.
Totally agree. And that's a very nice message. Essentially, this video is a no excuses video, sort of covered up as a scientific video. But in reality, look like if you're somebody who cares about building muscle and being strong, it is very easy to really like maintain. And then if you just throw in a couple of sets on top of that, then you could be looking at meaningful gains.
Yes.
Like in our studies, the group that was doing just the singles, again, like they had some, the 30% chance of making meaningful gain. Less than that, actually.
I had a much lower than 30% chance when I was single of making meaningful sexual interactions.
But look at you now, having sex with me after this.
You promise, but let's see if you deliver. We have an OnlyFans for that.
Yeah.
Log in. Greek versus Russian. It's not a fight.
No, it's Orthodox Brotherhood.
Cooperative.
Yes. Well, actually, not Orthodox Brotherhood.
The Orthodox Christian religion will not be approving of what we do behind closed doors.
Exactly. The group that did just the singles, when you threw in an additional 2 sets, so we're not talking about a lot of time commitment, they went from like, it wasn't 30, it was 13% chance of making meaningful gains.
13.
Yeah, to 99.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so like you're in the gym and you got 5 minutes to spare and you just did your lat pull down like with a different grip. You do a couple of bicep curls, you do a couple of push-ups, a couple of sets of push-ups, and then you could be looking at even like, it makes a difference at those low volumes. That extra set may make a big difference. So things are looking good, guys. That's what we're saying.
Great. A couple of oddball questions for you before we kick you off. Greece. You're from Greece. Good place or nah?
Best place in the world. We invented everything. But yeah, great place for holiday presently.
Excellent. The 300 movie, a documentary or slight exaggeration?
When I first watched it, I was like, okay, so they just went to the Acropolis Museum and just took a video of like.
That's it.
Yeah,
You're like, that's literally my grandfather.
Yeah, that's literally Greece. Like when I was born, they threw me into the ditch.
What's that? Like, the Hagogi or whatever. They tell you to go fuck off.
Yeah, they're like, okay, bro, you're 3 months old.
Yeah. How jacked was the wolf that you personally killed in your manhood exercise?
He's pretty jacked. He's Austrian, Belgian, Belgian wolf. And he's right here in the room with us.
Oh, that's right, Milo.
Yeah, Milo Wolf. I didn't kill him though. We killed each other by making love. So we killed our
spiritual death.
Yeah, you have 2 wolves inside you. I had 1 wolf inside me.
But there was a lot of him inside you.
A lot of him.
Too much for some points in time. Just caught myself off. Where can people follow you?
They can follow me on Instagram at Dr. Yeah, I mean, I've been messaging the DRPAK and the Dr.PAK, and it's like, it's 2 accounts. It was like 0 or like 50 followers. And I'm like,
Just give it up.
every
Just say
few
it.
months I message and I'm like, please, just
Let me
give it
have
to
your
me.
account.
Let me have it.
So Instagram is the best place to find you.
Yeah, and all my links are there for
Excellent.
ResearchGate. We're
Excellent.
publishing research, and
You are going to be a visiting professor,
we're
visiting
scholar. is the
visiting
title.
scholar. My
Ooh.
word! And where is that?
That's where you're a professor at Lehman
At
College
Lehman College in the Bronx.
in the Bronx.
So if you want to fuck with that Bronx shit, check him out. Dr. Milo is another person who's going to be there to check out. In any case, welcome to the United States. Enjoy our everything.
Gatorade Zero, actually, civilization right there. Acropolis was cool, but
It was
this is
This
where
is the
it's
tip
at.
of the spear.
This is the tip of the spear. Thank you.